Hey, babe, what you got there?
This is a check from Carvana. I just sold my car to them. I went online and Carvana gave me an offer right away. Then they just picked up the car and gave me this.
Well, that's a big check. Well, obviously you could put this towards your next car, or we could finally get that jacuzzi, or I could start taking tuba lessons, or I could quit my job and write my memoir.
Or I can put it towards my next car with Carvana.
Sorry, your check, not mine.
Sell your car to Carvana. Visit Carvana.com or download the app to get a real offer in seconds.
What happens when you cross a bearded comic titan from Houston with a four-eyed nerdtastic collector from Nebraska? Well, if you guess the most spectacular comic book podcast in the world, then you'd be right. Thank you to all you spectators out there tuning in for the latest episode of Spec Tales. I am your most ridiculous host, Jake, along with your real deal co-host, Jesus. What's going on, Jesus?
Real deal, huh? Just like the real deal Holyfield, who's also from Houston. I guess it's a thing. Real deal. The real deal comes from Houston.
I did not. Yeah, I didn't know that for, like that. That's just dumb luck on my part. I'm not going to act like I was that smart.
I think it's subconscious. Everyone knows that the real deal comes from Houston. So whatever it is, comic books, boxing, getting your ear bitten off, it's the real deal.
Yeah, let's avoid the last one. For all you first-time listeners out there, thanks for checking us out. Spec Tales is a comic book podcast that has collectors and creators. What's your grail tale? Each week, we explore news stories about the comic book grails we love, the epic journeys behind how they were obtained, and how they inspired new creativity.
We also dive into some comic book speculation and how, as collectors, we can help the hobby pay for itself.
So this week, Jesus, oh man, we've got a lot to cover just in this opening. A lot of stuff. What's that?
Did you hear it? Did you hear it this time?
No, what am I supposed to be hearing? What am I supposed to be hearing?
Another week and you're missing the drums, Jake. Those drums are beating. Tell me you know what the drums are.
Is that the Scarce Army roll call? Is that what we're supposed to be hearing?
Oh, okay. You're hearing it now. We're just a little delay. It's a little delay right now for you. But yes, that's what we're hearing. The Scarce Army roll call. 2 weeks in a row, baby. Let's see if we can make it 3 weeks in a row. Again, that's up to you guys. That's not on us. That's not on me. That's not on you, Jake. Right?
No. I agree. All we can do is keep pumping out this content and keep delivering special exclusive content to all of our patrons. Like this week, Jesus, we just dropped our latest newsletter and it included a exclusive interview with Alvaro Martinez Bueno. That's something you can only get if you are a Spec Tales patron. Can you believe that?
I think that's really cool, man. If it was me and I was you, I'd want to be a patron just because Alvaro Martinez Bueno is the co-creator of Nice House on the Lake. We've talked about it a bunch on this podcast. We've talked about it in Spec, recent pickups. It's a really cool story that we both like. And we got a chance to ask him some questions and interview him. So you guys allow us to do that. You spectators, you patrons, you listeners. And again, back to the Scarce Army roll call. Our new patron is, and I'll let you say it this time, Jake.
John Baines is the new Scarce Army member. And what we mean by Scarce Army member, Scarce Army roll call, this is a new patron, everybody. So we want to say thank you very much to John Baines. You can find him on Instagram at John B Comics. John, we sincerely appreciate you joining our Scarce Army and helping us by supporting the show. We really do appreciate that.
We appreciate it. Thank you very much, John.
But that is not all, Jesus. We've got other stuff we got to talk about. We need to. So this is our 50th episode. So we're celebrating the 50th episode by announcing a future episode. Is that what we're doing? It's like Inception.
Yeah, it's a weird Inception for the big 50. 50 episodes in, 50 deep.
50. 55. I have no idea what we're doing.
I don't want to get sued by 50 Cent. So just careful with how many times and how you say 50. Okay, it's not 50. Okay, it's 50.
I will be very careful to limit. I'm going to limit how many times I say 50 in this opening. I promise. Well, what we're talking about though is this is the king size annual, right? We're throwing a king size annual.
That's correct. We've had a what was the New Year's one called? It was called
for New Year's we did the giant size episode.
That's right.
Giant size.
But this is an annual. So this is a king size. We're going to pack it with guests. We're going to pack it with content. We're going to pack it with grail tales. What more do you want? Tell me, Jake, seriously, like, I don't know. What more do you want? Tell me.
Well, I think that we need to give something away. We got to celebrate here.
That's right. It's a celebration. So you're just giving it all away, man. You call it the king size special, the king size annual, the guests, the grail tales, and also we have a huge giveaway. So let's talk about that giveaway a little bit.
Well, I don't want to give them all the details about the giveaway, but here's what I can say about this king size annual. So we are just announcing it today. This is what we have right now is the 50th episode. So we decided we wanted to announce a future episode, which is for our 1 year anniversary. That's why we're calling it the king size annual. And we are going to be having a lot of special guests on where we are going to be asking these guests to tell us or talk to us about their favorite grail tale story from the last year. We've got a year's worth of episodes. We didn't miss 1 week, Jesus, not one. So we're going to ask our guests and we're going to ask you, the listeners, to tell us what your favorite moments are from this last year. So that's big announcement number 1 on that. We're just doing that king size annual, but to boot, we're also giving away a lot of comic books. And seriously, we're going to be giving away some awesome stuff. Now, we're not announcing it yet. Jesus, don't you go revealing anything now.
It is no, I'm just joking. I'm not going to say
you
it.
better not do it.
I really want to. It's really hard for me not to tell you guys because we love giving away stuff to the community. We do it every month.
Every month?
Every month.
Oh, that's a callback, isn't it? Callback to the Scarce Army?
Yes, the Scarce Army. If you're a part of the Scarce Army, part of our Patreon, if you've heard us, you know what we're talking about. We love giving away stuff. We love doing AOKs on a monthly basis. But this is a big giveaway. And I'm so tempted to say something about what we're giving away, but I will hold my tongue on this.
So that's coming up at the end of July for our 1 year anniversary. But what we need from you listeners right now is if you're listening and you are a fan, you've listened to our show, what we need is for you to reach out to us either via email, spectalespodcast@gmail.com, or on our social media, either Instagram, which is spec_tales_podcast, or over on Twitter @spectalespod. Reach out to us in any one of those avenues and just tell us what your favorite moment, grail tale moment from the last year is. And if you could, try to be mildly specific, but it doesn't necessarily matter. What we get the most entries for, the most submissions, that is going to show up on the episode. We are going to take our listeners' votes into account, and we'll make sure that gets up there. So that we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. What we're able to announce right now is that we are going to be doing a king size annual at the end of July for our 1 year anniversary. We are going to be having a very big giveaway, and we are going to be telling everybody's favorite grail tale moments from the last year. So please send us your favorite grail tale moment. It might make the show. But we need to move on. Jesus, we need to get going. We've got a 50th episode coming up here.
Yeah, this episode is big in itself. It's 50, huge. Let's go.
All right, so what are we waiting for? Let's just do it. So 50, 50, 50, 50, 50, 50, and 50, 50, 50. This is episode 50.
This is a conspiracy. That's what this is.
Just begging to course its way through your veins.
Let's just for a moment speculate, shall we?
You're into comic books, aren't you?
I'm a nerd.
But you do like comic books.
Comic books aren't just for sad nerds anymore.
Do you think we need one more?
Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
Do you think we need one more?
Objection, calls for speculation, move to strike.
This is a bad idea. This is a bad idea.
All right, we'll get one more.
Spec Tales, a comic book podcast with Jake and Jesus.
Hello there, and welcome to the 50th episode of Spec Tales. Thank you for joining us. This week, we are joined by Dustin Nelson, currently a writer for Thrillist, but previously writer for Sports Illustrated, Rolling Stone, and also currently in the final stretch of a Kickstarter campaign for his upcoming comic series, Magda Skeleton Maker. Dustin, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me on the show. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, Dustin, thank you for joining us, man. Anytime we can have a writer that creates, it's always a pleasure. So thank you again for joining us. We're really excited to have you on.
Yeah, I love the show, so I'm super stoked to be here.
Well, thanks for listening. Thanks for saying that. And also, very special occasion for us. You are joining us for our 50th episode. So we somehow made it a year. We are proof that dreams come true, I guess. 50th episode. And we kind of also really enjoyed the being able to synchronize our 50th episode with having somebody come on who's doing a Kickstarter to get their comic book off the ground. We have not had somebody in your situation on our show just yet. So we thought it was a good idea to bring you on for our 50th.
Breaking open new doors for the next 50.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We've got 50 more in us, don't we, Jesus?
Whew, man, I don't know. That's a lot.
Well, I know your back is killing you, but I think we can.
I mean, I keep carrying this whole thing, man. So that's why my back hurts, dude. So it's kind of difficult, but yeah, I think I still got some more in me.
Well, you know what? Let's change the subject from your back, Jesus, to Dustin's back. Dustin, you've been doing a lot of work over the last, I'm going to just call it a decade, but it may be longer than that. So you've written for every major publication I've ever heard of, basically. And you write on everything from sports to pop culture to comic books to you name it. Can you talk a little bit about your background history in writing?
Yeah, I've bounced around a lot. That's I kind of started off in poetry and fiction. I edited a literary magazine for about 7 years that I had founded, and we published lots of poetry and fiction and kind of all over the place. Podcasts when there were 4 of them and they were all etched into stone. We had to put them on the stereo and make sure the needle was sharp. So then I moved into journalism and a lot of hockey, writing on hockey, and covered some stuff with, a couple times with Rolling Stone and Sports Illustrated and Hockey News and Hockey Writers, and I don't know.
Now, were you a hockey lover prior to that, or was that you became a hockey fan while writing?
It kind of mirrored my kind of journey with comics. I was super into hockey and then kind of faded away for a little bit and then came back to it and buried myself in it like I did with comics.
Now, were they simultaneously, or was it ebbing and flowing from one to the other? Did you go from hockey to comics, back into hockey, and then into comics, or a little bit of both?
A little bit of both. It's kind of all over the place. I maybe I have a short attention span and I'm just kind of scattered all over the place. Whatever's popping up in front of me, I'm like, oh, that thing looks cool. Let's do that right now.
I know that feeling. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit more about this episode of Spec Tales. For all you first-time listeners out there, Spec Tales is a comic book podcast where we ask collectors and creators, what's your grail tale? So what we do, we have 3 specific segments for our show. We always kick everything off with a recent pickup segment. Then we have a grail tale segment where we're going to ask Dustin here to talk about his comic book grail and kind of the story behind it, or whether it's a comic book or a collectible, but how it inspired him and what he's doing now. And then we finish every episode with speculation. A lot of the listeners out there are collectors themselves, and they like to help the hobby pay for itself. So we will help them a little bit by speculating on books or collectibles we think could have some value in the future. Any questions on that?
Jake, can you
You are not allowed to ask a question.
I wasn't talking to you.
All right, good, grand, wonderful.
Recent pickups.
All right, the recent pickups segment. Hey, Zeus, I'm going to let you kick us off.
All right, man. I saw this on the newsstand, I guess, a few weeks ago, maybe longer. And I saw it. I was like, I'm not gonna pick this up right now. I don't even know. I haven't heard anything about it. And it just, every time I would go into the LCS, I kept seeing it. I was like, man, let me pick it up. It has a lot of my vibe to it. So it's basically Pacific Rim, but in comic book form, and it's called We Ride Titans from Vault Comics, Dean, Perez, Kniff, and Campbell. And that's exactly what it is.
Oh, nice.
And it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool concept. The first one leaves off on a big cliffhanger. And it's like if each city had a what do they call, giant robot, that protected the city from kaiju, but it's basically like each city has a family that they pass down who rides it. So it's like a family thing that does it. So we're in the middle of seeing this family story, and I don't know, the pressure's getting to the current writer. He has a sister, and it leaves on a cliffhanger. I have
All
1
right.
through 4. I've just read number 1. It's pretty interesting so far. It's right up my alley. I think, Jake, you like kaiju as well, so I think you might enjoy this.
I enjoy kaiju.
But I mean, there's a lot of meat on that bone of this story, so I'm excited to read the rest of them that I have.
I'm too into that one. I love that. So far, I'm with you. I'm super into it. That cliffhanger is solid. It's like a family comic.
Yeah.
Either way, with you feel like a bunch of monsters and some family emotions.
Interesting.
Exactly. So family dynamics, right? Like, some family issues that I'm sure people have had before with the brothers and sisters and parents and responsibility and whatnot. But you throw in a huge mech titan that you're responsible for and some kaiju, then there's a lot of fun there.
Interesting. So how long has that been going now? A few months?
Yeah, I mean, I have, what is this one? This was number 4. This is the latest one that they have.
Okay.
So I haven't read it. So I have 1 through 4, like I mentioned. So I'm assuming it's probably like 4 months or somewhere. This is what 3, I think.
Very cool.
Yeah, this is 3, and it's from Vault Comics.
Digging the colors too.
Yeah, we've talked about Vault in the past. They have some cool stuff that they're working on. Look at this one.
Oh wow, is that number 1?
This is 2.
2.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's pretty sweet. And do you have who's the writer? Is that on there?
Let me see. Tres Dean, Sebastian Perez, D. Cuniff, and Jim Campbell. I don't know who the writer is exactly, but it's one of them. Let me open it real quick.
Looks like Trace Dean. Trace Dean is the writer.
Okay.
I'm doing some Google searching now. This looks like my jam right now. Yeah. Looking forward to this. I'm gonna have to pick this thing up.
Yeah. Let me tell you which one was the one that. This is the one that made me pick it up. It's number 3.
And that cover like did it for you?
Yeah, you're in the cockpit of the mech, and then you're looking.
Whoa, Jesus! I don't think you can say words like that on this podcast. We don't say stuff like that.
Well, you don't like kaiju?
That's not the word I'm talking about.
Repeat what I said, Jake.
We can't, and then I'm gonna have to do all this editing because you're up here swearing. So
Well, that's it. That's why we should pick a man. We write Titans. I'm enjoying the first issue so far. I'm excited to read numbers 2 through 4, which I have in front of me. So I recommend it so far. I'll let you guys know how the rest goes.
Very nice. Yeah, we've been talking about Vault Comics, and I think we said it recently, but I've heard it. I didn't come up with this phrase; somebody else said it. But Vault Comics is the A24 of the comic book publishing industry
right now. Yes,
right now, and I've yet to find a reason to argue with that. They seem to be really just knocking it out of the park with a lot of these indie titles, these interesting titles that are just. They're out there, they're cool.
West of Sundown, which is friend of the show, Tim Seeley's vampire, Western mixed together. That one's pretty good. I have 2 and 3 also that I have to catch up on reading, but that one's also from Vault. So yeah, you're right, man. A24. Have you heard of Vault, Dustin? Well, you mentioned you read Right Times, right?
Yeah, and I've been reading West of Sundown too, which those covers are just killer.
Yeah. The artwork in that whole thing is ridiculous. And let's not forget about Barbaric, which is one of my recent favorites. So that's also really good stuff too.
Yeah.
Dustin, do you have a recent pickup to mention today?
You guys are segueing hard because mine's a Volt comic too.
Oh, nice.
Wow. It's like we planned it, but didn't.
Sponsored by Volt Comics. Yeah, so I only being on here this one episode, you hit up a bunch that I'm like really into on recent episodes, so I won't like get into Once and Future or Righteous Thirst for Vengeance, which is
God, love that. I
can talk about the writing in that forever. But so I kind of had a dual one. One was Nottingham.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Not one we've mentioned on the show actually.
And I love Nottingham. The second arc's kind of still in the midst of like showing us what it's all about, but that first run on it, if anyone hasn't read it, it's like a Robin Hood story, except for it's not the Robin Hood you're familiar with. Like Robin Hood's not necessarily the good guy. Sheriff Blackthorn's not necessarily the bad guy. It's a lot of gray area and a lot of blood.
Oh, nice.
Maybe I should be getting in on that. I was sold on blood. I haven't read none of him. Yeah.
It's intensely gory every issue. It's a very violent rendition of Robin Hood. It's like not no Foxes or Kevin Costner involved.
Well, I like me a Kevin Costner, but yeah, I might have to pick that up anyway. I might take, it's got trades, right? It's got a couple now.
I think it's got one. I think 7 or 8 is the most recent issue.
Oh, is that all the further they're into it? I thought they've been going for a while now.
There's a long break between arcs.
Was it? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, I might see if I can't find that first arc on Comixology.
Yeah, I think it is up there because I think I found the first issue that way because someone who has a lot of knowledge on comic sales, so I don't know if this is verified, but they've communicated with me multiple times that it's either the best-selling run Mad Cave's ever had, or it's like up there.
Oh, wow.
So like if you weren't putting it on the pull list, it was hard to grab those first handful of issues.
Nice. So maybe it's scarce? Is that what you're saying?
Oh,
might be. At my comic book shop, it is. There's like usually a short fist fight for everyone who doesn't have it on their pull list. But that's because it's like a fight club. That really, maybe it's less about the comic book.
But you're not supposed to be talking about that though, right? Like the comic book fight club.
I'm notoriously bad at rules. The other one I wanted to mention was Quests Aside from Vault, and I totally misplaced it, but it's like not what I've kind of come to expect from Vault. It's like a Dungeons and Dragons kind of universe set in a bar called Quests Aside. There are only 2 issues in, maybe 3rd came out this week, but it's a real slow burn.
Okay.
Like ex-Quest battle warrior who opened Quests Aside, and his chef is a skeleton, and their pantry is like a multi-dimensional thing. You have to like get tethered up to go get the food. The plot is slow revealing itself, but like all like the little side shit is just like it's so entertaining, and I have laughed out loud a number of times. I'm like very into Quests Aside right now.
Interesting. All right. Well, I'm always into a little bit of a D&D adventure here and there, and that's it sounds kind of fun, and that's something that I might be interested in as well. And I definitely know a few of our listeners who would they probably are already on it, to be honest, because I know a couple of people out there who are big D&D fans and also Spec Tales listeners, and I know that they're probably going nuts over it already. So I'll ask them if they've heard of it. Quest Aside. Is that correct?
Yeah, Quests Aside.
Quests Aside. All right. Nice. Nice. Well, I am going to jump in with my recent pickup. And this is kind of, Jesus, I guess I'll include you on mine time. This time.
No, don't do me any favors. Don't do me any favors.
I'm not calling it a favor. I feel like almost like I'm required to.
Well, then do it. And don't do it as a favor.
Could you stop interrupting me? I'm going to have to. It's more. All you do is give me editing work to do, Jesus. That's all you ever do. All right. So I want to talk about a recent contribution Spec Tales has made to a Kickstarter. Dustin, this involves you, so don't go anywhere. We have recently contributed to Magna Skeleton Maker, which is a comic book that, Dustin, you are creating. So I don't want to, I butcher things all the time, but I'm going to give this a real quick go because I'm just going to read straight from your Kickstarter. New comic book written by Dustin Luke Nelson, artist Donna A. Black, and letter by Letter Squids, which I wasn't familiar with them before seeing your Kickstarter, but damn, they're good. So
they're great.
So I guess I don't want to just read directly from your Kickstarter, but you've got this dark storyline with Magna, your lead character. But maybe would you mind, just for the sake of me butchering your story, would you mind pitching us for it? Even, we've already contributed, so
Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So Magna, her vision kind of goes in and out of a state where she sees kind of through static, and sees the shape of things, but can't really make things out very well. As things progress and she's in this vision, she's looking across at another apartment across from hers, and a sort of a portal, for lack of a better word, kind of opens up, and she sees this light coming out of it, and something crawls out of there that she calls the light beast. And she's not quite, the story kind of kicks off of she's not sure what to do with this information. There's this like demon looking thing. She slowly realizes only she can see it, and she can only see it in this kind of static. So she only has some access to it and struggles with the kind of what now of how do I communicate this to someone who will believe me, that like if I tell someone I see a demon and I'm the only person who can see it and I can only see it sometimes, there's not like a lot of people that are going to listen or take it too seriously. So that kind of starts part of her problems, but that's kind of the basis and core issue of this first issue.
And so what you have on your Kickstarter right now with some of the artwork is incredible, because it really does capture what you were just talking about as that so the overall like static look, right? That's something that I was looking at saying I could read a whole issue of this, right? This artwork is interesting. It's different. It's unique. The way that it is utilizing the boxes, the lines, they're all blurred. And I imagine this is that stylistic that Magna's seeing through, right?
Yeah. And thank you. It's, a lot of credit to Donna Black on that. It's really kind of the core of like what she does with her art. She does mixed media work that is in comics and elsewhere, but that was kind of part of the impetus of this story, was we had kind of a core to it, and then was like, all right, I want to be reactive to what Donna does. And make something where she can kind of get a chance to go a little wild and really lean into some of those tendencies. So yeah, what you see on there is some of those are her seeing through the static, and so you get this kind of blurred mixed media panels that are, I think not typically what you see when you pick up X-Men for the week.
Well, exactly. But that's also it's not the point, which is amazing. And I love when artists and writers use the comic book medium for beyond just the capes, right? We had talked about, or you had mentioned, A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance. And I'm a huge fan of the artwork and the story and how it's such a slow burn. We had Andre Lima Araujo on the show November of last year, and he told us immediately then that it was a slow burn and you're going to have to stick with it, but it's going to get intense. It's going to get good. And holy shit, has it, right? Like it's gotten so intense and good. And that's something though, where the artwork is, I feel like it was a perfect collaboration between writer and artist, where they came up with a concept and a style and everything that they wanted to do immediately. And I know everybody probably does that, but it seems non-traditional in the way they did it, and you're doing it in what feels like a non-traditional way, however different from theirs. It's completely unique and different.
Yeah, I enjoy those kind of collaborations. Like I want to not write a script and just hand it to someone and be like, draw the shit I wrote. I want to work with someone and work to their strengths and help push each other into surprising things. And I think ours looks a lot different than Righteous Thirst for Vengeance, which I think
of course. And I didn't mean to draw correlations, but I just thought that the relationship and how that was built prior really feels like that's what's happened here. And what was, I guess, how did you come to work with Donna on it? Was that something that you had done? Had you had prior relationships with her on some other stuff?
We had just kind of, I don't even remember how we started talking. It was about 5 years ago, and just kind of had gone back and forth a little, and we're like, yeah, we should do something together at some point here. I'd started passing some stuff back and forth, and it was like, I kind of have this story idea, and she kept making comics like Fargo the Giant and oh God, I'm going to blanking out on some of them now, but I was picking them up every time and was like, okay, yeah, this, I got to play with this art and like give her the opportunity to just have this story lean into what she does already and say, there's these moments where you do what you got to do what you want to do. Because it informs the story in different ways. And so there has been some back and forth of that, of seeing a panel of Magda standing at a bus stop and even looking at like the kind of posture and being like, okay, like maybe I don't need as many words here because I'm feeling what I need to feel about her emotionally. So yeah, and that is totally dead on with the Righteous Thirst, because I mean that's something that the visual storytelling in that, you're totally right, is just like this. It's like he wrote in a ton of words and then was like, yeah, you know what? We don't need any of that. Let's just like make a silent film that's very written, but like, yeah, that first issue, man.
Yeah, no, and for me, man, on the Kickstarter, like, I just want, because this is obviously a audio, people can't see it. We're gonna ask them to go to Kickstarter, and you're gonna ask them as well. But just to reiterate, each one of the blocks, or the what are they called?
Panels?
Not cells. The panels are like individual paintings themselves. That's what I'm getting from what you've shared on Kickstarter. And again, you can't say that about, like you said, your normal X-Men that you pick up every week or what have you. It's an individual art piece on each panel, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, there are some I love when she sends me art, I get super excited because there's some of those I'm like, I'm gonna blow that up into a poster. I love this one, and I get excited about her art, which like keeps me excited about us going forward on this.
So let's talk about where you're at currently with this. So this is this Kickstarter here. This is for issue number 1, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And so right now you are at roughly 1,800 pledged with a goal of 3,500. You have 55 backers right now, and as of this recording, 9 days to go. But by the time by the time this episode is released, approximately 7 days to go. Right, 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so what is the, obviously I know what your immediate goal is for your Kickstarter, but what happens next? So when this completes, because I have a lot of faith, I think that this is going to finish up strong, but what happens after that?
Well, we're, where we are with our project, we're kind of finishing up art. So as soon as this closes up, we're kind of tying up the art, getting into some lettering. We got a few pages lettered, but keep going through that process. And then we're going to get going on issue 2. I'm hoping issue 1 is, it's a little rough right now, but we're looking at like November of having it in people's hands. So it's a little bit of a wait, indie comics.
Yeah, understood. Understandable.
But so then we're hoping to just keep rolling right into it, into the next issue, and not making it too long of a wait between issues. Certainly isn't a monthly, but hoping we'll keep getting there, because we've got it all kind of rolled together in terms of the project's ready to go, scripts are kind of there, and yeah, the art's coming along. There's some I'm hoping before the end of the Kickstarter, and probably after this comes out, I'll be able to share a little bit more art, because there's some cool stuff and I'm excited to share.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, go ahead, Jesus.
Well, I have a question as well. Obviously a lot of our, well, I mean, I don't even know, maybe some of our listeners are into Kickstarter, have been into Kickstarter, but Jake and I have recently been getting even more into Kickstarter and the really indie comic scene and the indie comic community. But I guess, can you talk more a little bit about because it says you've created more previous to this. What else have you created previous to this that was on Kickstarter?
So this is my first Kickstarter comic. I have a web comic with Claudio Gerardo that wrapped up a couple months ago called The Return of Phantasmo. And that kind of spun out of a project we did at the Comic Jam, which is indie comic site. They do 1-page comics kind of on themes, and people just kind of get thrown together and try and make something. That's kind of a cool little lab of just, there's been some great people who've gone through there. And yeah, just tons of short comics. was in I think 6 anthologies last year. Some of them, that always varies between some really short stuff, and did a longer one that was a 12-page comic in an anthology last year called Planet Now with Sam Prowse. He's an awesome artist. I love his work. He's worth seeking out.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's a lot of the stuff I've done, in the last couple years. But yeah, this is the first time I've gone through Kickstarter to really get something going.
Go ahead, Jake.
I was going to say, is there, forgive me for not knowing, is there an end goal as far as, is this something, I know you guys want to publish it yourself, but is this something that you could take or can take to one of the publishers we were talking about, like a Vault or like an Image or somebody?
Mad Cave or...
Yeah, Scout, you name them, all of the indie comic people.
Yeah, I think there's, when you run your comic through Kickstarter, it opens up a lot of possibilities of what comes next. So I'm not sure what comes next for us, but I know that like that kind of thing's a possibility. You see that. I actually was at Hot Comics here in town yesterday and bought 2 comics from friends that were on the shelf there. Commander Rao, who's from Comic Jam. She fell on Comic Jam as well. And then Ultramax, where I met Doug Wood through Comic Jam as well. I believe both of those funded through Kickstarter and then afterward got picked up by those publishers. So there's definitely, it goes in all kinds of
paths. There's a path there.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's one of the options out there of, it's exciting. That's kind of part of the excitement of doing it on Kickstarter. I think when I buy comics on Kickstarter fairly frequently from creators or just like that I know, or just stuff that looks interesting when they got that splash page up there and you're like, oh shit, that's Bigfoot doing karate. This looks
nice.
It's exciting. You never know what you're getting, especially when you don't know who it is and you're like, ooh, I don't know. And sometimes you can get those, and that was Commander Rao for me. I didn't know Fell at all. I just talked a couple times through Comic Jam, but had just supported the Kickstarter randomly and was like, whoa, this is amazing. Like, this is awesome. I just got my money's worth on this one.
Nice.
And Commander Rao, I think, won some awards too, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Good.
Yeah.
Very cool. So, okay, so got a lot of avenues, got a lot of places to go with it. Maybe let's talk a little bit more about where you've been with it. How long ago did you start this project?
So it's kind of been going for about 5 years. Though that's also in the same vein as people being like, that novel took 70 years to write. I wasn't writing for 5 years. Like we started going back and forth a little bit about 5 years ago. And I think I'd given Donna a finished script maybe a year and a half ago. And played around with a little bit of stuff and then kind of went back to it about 6 months ago. And we're like, all right, we're finalizing all this. We're running ahead now, like no more just kind of playing with this idea and picking at the sides of it. It's time to like bull on through it and get to the next phase of this, get physical copies in people's hands and get some art done.
Nice. And I assume you're going to be doing a final push for this Kickstarter, right? Which we are a part of.
Yes. So we're hitting that final run. So we're nonstop Kickstarter thoughts all the time right now.
Well, good for you. I'm sure that's a good feeling, right? You wake up in the middle of the night saying like Kickstarter, please join my Kickstarter. Is that you just?
That's pretty much it right now.
Yeah, those aren't nightmares at all.
No, never happened.
Well, I can tell you one thing. We were thrilled to be able to support it, and we are very excited to see where it goes, because this is something that Jesus and I both want to see happen for you. But it's also something that, listen, it's cool to just watch and be a part of. This is something that's new for us to look at and kind of see through the lens of, what you're being on our side. And trying to see what you're going through on your side is really intriguing and interesting to us. And, as some people who love comic books, it's kind of fun to see how the sausage is made. Jesus, is that the right phrase? Is that what you say?
I don't know what they say in Nebraska, but down here in Houston, we say, no, that is how it's said.
Well, in Nebraska, we say it's how the popcorn pops.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say how the corn is husked.
Why would you husk corn? Don't be doing that. I'm just joking.
That's
no
a Nebraska thing. I don't know. You tell me why y'all say that.
What you do in the privacy of your own home, Jesus? I'm telling you, God, you are just filthy dirty today in the way you're talking.
I have no idea what you're talking about, Jake. I'm just trying to husk some corn down here like Nebraskans do every day. That's all I'm trying to do.
That's disgusting. All right. Well, we need to move on because it's no longer funny to the audience. Maybe it never was.
Grail tale.
Grail tale. Grail tale. Grail tale. Grail tale.
That's right. Here to save us from ourselves, the Grail Tale segment. Dustin, this is where we can turn the mic over to you and let you tell us a little bit about your Grail Tale.
Oh, man. So knowing how this segment goes and that you have people who are like expert collectors, feel like mine's weird. Maybe it's totally not. Because I have comics. I got a shelf over here that's covered in comics. I've got comics. I read comic constantly. But I don't like collect like the dudes I have to edge past at the comic book shop. I really, it's read first for me. But I have all these comics. I mean, I am literally collecting them. So my grail was never I was never had this, like, I have to have this like key issue of Spider-Man or the Hulk. Wasn't like the kind of collecting that appealed to me. Mm-hmm. It was like always much more personal. And so when I started reading comics, probably like kindergarten, it was very X-Men superhero stuff. And I kind of thought that's all there was. Well, I thought there's the superheroes, and then I know there's like that's for kids. That's what we read. Then the adults get the one that's got the Crypt Keeper on it. Those really boring looking Westerns. And that's all the comics that exist. That's it. Skeletons, cowboys, or capes. That's it. But I think, I kind of fell off after a bit. And then when it was probably high schoolish that I came back and was finding something different. And the two comics that got me back into it were American Splendor and The Tick, that were both like, comics can be weird and they can be anything.
Very cool.
Like opened up this whole, like, going from, thinking it's skeletons, cowboys, and, X-Men. I'm like, oh, this is weird. Like, you can do weird stuff in comics. They can be like inappropriate in different ways.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
My parents hate this for totally different reasons than I thought they would. So these weren't like, I recently grabbed these, and they aren't, I don't think anyone's clamoring for these, and the $4 price sticker says that that's probably true. But I got the full Karma Tornado and I believe, my memory is a little shoddy from like high school of like The Tick I was reading, but I'm fairly certain Karma Tornado was the first run of Tick comics I ever read.
Oh, very
nice. Cool. Nice.
And these covers are awesome. Ridiculous. But
man.
I just have The Tick for me was just this amazing, amazing comic of like, how dumb could a comic be? Just like it always felt to me like he was challenging himself, like, how dumb can I make this? Like, he's gonna yell spoo, and like just nothing had to make sense, and was making fun of itself. And it feels familiar today, but like it blew my mind then. It's like, wow, you can make fun of yourself and people are gonna like it. I'm gonna do that forever.
So that's kind of the I guess the book, that one, in American Splendor, because American Splendor is also just like mundane, right? It's just mundane, and it's just like a normal slice of life.
Yeah, I actually picked up one yesterday, and I feel like I leave it upstairs. The cover of it like explained everything about it to me. Is just had him sitting there, and it was a woman on the phone saying, Harvey, it's from the Oprah Winfrey Show, and I hear you can complain about anything.
Yeah, I remember there's a movie that was made about him, I think.
Yeah, Paul Giamatti.
Yeah, I like that movie. But yeah, I think these are cool. Like, in our grails, we talk about collecting and stuff like that. But these are the cool ones too. The ones where they sparked they opened your mind as far as what comics could be, right?
Yeah, and it's the thing that for some people, I don't judge it. Whatever anyone wants to read, no matter what it is, really. But like, for me, I never get excited. I get the hunt, like how exciting that is. I used to collect some stuff that was like, that hunt was exciting. But for me, it's really about that like emotional connection to these and that kind of thrill you get when you're reading the stuff. And recreating some of that when you get those comics. Because the other thing I really do for collecting is as maybe bet other people don't do it quite like this, but I love getting comics and like really breaking them down. I've taken a lot of them and tried to just start with the comic and write what the script might have looked like. Do panel breakdowns. I especially love looking at first issues and like how writers and artists handle bringing you into a world.
World building is crucial in early issues, which is and the more complex your world, the more difficult I feel like it would be to do that.
Yeah, I think that's fascinating too, because it's what draws us into comics, and those first issues are powerful. And we all know the issue or the series where there's a great first issue and then the next 3 issues you're like, God damn it, like this sucks. Maybe happens too often, but like the first issues that really work, it's exciting. Those, I mean, to me, that's why first issues are so special and like have this special place in comics. And I know a lot of people, it's the first appearance of Titania or, whatever it might be, but I think there's an emotional pull to them too. So that's like the other thing I'll collect is like series I love. I grabbed a Flintstones yesterday.
Nice.
Issue of that awesome run and Birthright. Speaking of world building.
Oh, nice.
Have the first issue of that as a flop. I gotta have that. I can put probably make everyone else scream, but put my sticky notes all over the inside and take notes on it.
Might not advise that.
Yeah, I do that to an extent as well. Like, break some of these down, and also like movies as well, break some of them down. But then also like when you talk about scripting, like at least for me, I've done it where you do something from somebody that's like, for example, a master, and then you're like, how the hell do they do that? And then you do it and you're like, oh, that's how they do it. And then like, man, then you start thinking, at least for me, can I do that? Is that something I can do? I'm capable of? And it's just a challenge. So that is pretty cool. And that's cool that you think of it that way and that you break them down. I break them down too. I've literally told Jake, texted him, yeah, this is pretty cool how they're setting this up, like, or what, like we talked about right now, like the cliffhanger, right? That's part of it. They do a cliffhanger on We Write Titans. That's part of it. Like how they set that up. Like, in my mind, they set it up on We Write Titans and it's a cliffhanger and I already know where it's going, but that's what they want you to think. So it could be a twist. It's like, it just sets you up, and I think that's great when you're able to do that.
Like it's part of what I think special about comics too, is that cliffhanger can exist. And there aren't too many other serialized forms of entertainment outside of TV where you're like getting those cliffhangers, and comics is real invested too in that, like you said, surprising you with that twist, like saying, yeah, we're going this way. And then being like, nah, just kidding.
Yeah.
Righteous for vengeance again. That's a comic that does those twists great. Cliffhanger at the end of every issue. And they're like, yeah, I'm an assassin. Nah, just kidding.
So I got to ask then, can you, as a comic creator and somebody who's embedded in your own story right now, can you separate yourself from a creator to a reader? Are you able to dive into a book and still thoroughly enjoy it, or are you dissecting it the whole time?
I definitely can, because I think a lot of times it's me exhausted with kids have exhausted me and I've been writing all day, and then sitting down to read a comic where I'm just like, I'm going to kind of shut off. I might have to read this again later. But it's also just part of how I enjoy it. Like I love that. If a story really draws me into that, I would say like just try and think about how they're working with these characters in this world and kind of drawing you in and how it's interacting with the art. Like I have so much fun with that. That is kind of one and the same for me.
Well, to call back to the books that you brought up with regards to your grails, because you have that connection to the Tick or American Splendor, do you feel any desire to try to get, whether it's Tick #1 or the first American Splendor or anything like that, or perhaps original artwork from those books?
I do. Like when I go to a new comic book shop, I definitely go to the A's and the T's and to see what's, if any of those are sitting in there. I haven't pursued it in the ways of like, oh, I'm going to get this. Like no one can stop me because I know it's out there. Before I came on, I was looking at eBay for Tick #1. It was like, I know I could drop a few $100s and order it off eBay, but I also kind of, maybe I'm just old, but I like that hunt of like going through stores and going buying music as a kid, like in that digging through and getting something, finding that one album that you've been looking for forever. Back when a Smith's vinyl was like a weird thing to find.
Hey, there is nothing wrong with the hunt. I'm a big fan of it myself, especially when it comes to obscure books, creepy books. So I'm a big fan of creepy comics magazines, and they can be found online. And sometimes they're harder than others, but I tell you what, there are comic books all across the country that I've found that they usually just have a stack of creepy magazines somewhere in the back. Almost all, like if they've got a decent backlog or back catalog, you can just see, hey, do you have any creepy or eerie? And they're like, yeah, we got a stack of them back there. Why don't you go take a look? And sometimes you find winners, and that's the best part about collecting creepy magazines for me is, they're like $5-10. They're not expensive books to go and grab. And for the most part, every cover is incredible. And it's artwork that nobody else is clamoring for, of course, hence the price tag, like you said earlier. But it's still something that I really enjoy. And so I am slowly trying to collect like the first 50 issues of Creepy, but I'm not actively doing it. I could be done with that collection already, but I'm just as I find them kind of
in
thing.
The wild.
Yeah, exactly. So it's about the hunt, leaving that out there.
Yeah, it's such a part of the fun, and I love going into comic book shops so much, and bookstores. I just it's such a great pleasure of just I drove around yesterday and went to 4 different comic book shops just because I had a little time and was like, I just want to dig around. I don't know, I'm gonna pick 4 comics, and if you have any of these series that I don't have, I'll read it. I just want to poke around and feel that hunt.
Do you read any digital comics?
I do. I don't know if I had mentioned, I do last year and this year I've done our best comics of the year at Thrillist. So I pound through a lot of comics every week. And so a lot of them are digital because I just can't. I don't
physically pick them up.
Office. It gets too wild.
Very cool.
It'd be a lot. But so yeah, I like reading digital. I actually really liked Comixology's digital reader until they,
screwed it up. Yeah.
I guess they stopped allowing it to work.
Stopped allowing. That's one way to put it.
They had the power to make it work. They'd done it already, and we're just like, nah. Well, it's notice the pizza. You put a frozen pizza in the oven, and you're watching it very closely, and it looks great. And you know what? Fuck it, I'm going to let you burn. You had a good pizza. That pizza was fine. You can't let it burn.
Some people just like to watch the world burn, so they do.
I don't know that I've ever looked at it. I know the feeling of look, I was with you up until the last part. I was just oh yeah, I know that feeling of looking at the pizza saying, hey, you're almost done. I've done that. I've talked to my pizza, but I've never once left it in there to just burn. I've never looked at the pizza and say, you know what? I'm not even hungry anymore. You're getting burned. No, I don't.
You picked the wrong day to be a pizza. Yeah, I'm saying.
More than eating pizza right now, I want to open all the windows in this house and have to manually shut off my smoke detector.
But I can't reach it, so I'm just gonna wave my towel for like the next 2 minutes trying to get
I burned a pizza earlier today, so
Oh, okay. Well, now the truth comes out.
Oh man.
Dustin hates pizza. I strategically did that while you were drinking. I'm sorry, Dustin.
I was close to spitting that on myself. No, I'm glad no one saw that. Not
Yeah, good. Don't worry. Well, we'll post a video of it later, maybe. We don't post videos. All right, let's move along to the final segment of our show.
Speculation.
That's right. Sometimes it's scary because it's speculation time. We are prognosticators. We are, what is it, Nostradamuses. We are the type of people who like to predict what's going to happen next in the world of comics. That all being said, Dustin has agreed to do the speculation for all three of us today. He's going to do 3 different books. No, just joking.
I know so much. You just have to give it all to me.
No, in this particular case, a lot of our readers are collectors and they like to help the hobby pay for itself. So we like to talk about comic books or collectibles we think could have a little bit more value than they currently do on the market. Jesus, why don't you show us how it's done?
All right, man. I'm gonna zig when people are zagging, as per usual. That's what I do. That's what we do. And actually, this is a little bit. I mean, I wouldn't call it late, but it's just sitting out there, and I'm like, why? I don't understand. So, have anybody here, I guess, in this chat right now, been watching or keeping up with The Boys? Yes? No? No?
Maybe? I can't say that I've kept. I'm not up to date yet. I'm sorry.
Okay. So it's quickly became one of my favorite shows. It's very, obviously satiring where we're in and all this stuff, but it's just really good. And it's really funny and it's really gory. There's a lot of blood, Jake. That's how you got to get Jake. You got to say there's a lot of gore and blood.
Oh,
and that's
cool. Say. That's neat.
Well,
you make me sound like a monster, like I'm some sort of...
So I'm not going to spoil it. The name of the last show is called Herogasm, so I'm not spoiling it. So it's called Herogasm. They've been making a big deal about it. They've been saying it's not appropriate for anybody because it's really bad and it follows the comic book and what have you, which is really bad as well. And that comic book, that issue, Herogasm #1, has gone up 620% in the past week based on this episode. But what I'm going to zag to is one of the main storylines is a Captain America-like character. His name is Soldier Boy. And The Boys #52 is the first appearance of this character. And this book is still $15, where Herogasm #1, which is just the name of the episode, is over $55. So again, The Boys #52, first appearance of this original character from the World War II era, $15. You can find this book for $10. You can probably find it in the back bins, honestly, for a cover price at your local LCS. The Boys #52 is my spec for this week.
Nicely done. I am not up to date on the Boys, as I had said, but I'm through season 1 and 2. Huge fan of the series. I just haven't started season 3 because, listen, between Obi-Wan, Miss Marvel, catching up on a few other series that I'm way late on, I just haven't been able to do it yet. So, but I did finish Obi-Wan finally yesterday, so I've got more time now.
It's so funny because I'm in the same boat, but I'm behind on Obi-Wan. So it's like I'm caught up with Ms. Marvel and The Boys, but I'm behind on Obi-Wan. And it's just, I think, Jake, we've talked about this. We're like in the golden age of shows right now. There's so many out there right now that are dropping on a weekly basis, and now we're having to keep up with them because we're not able to binge them.
Yeah, well, it's hard. Yeah.
There's too many comic book shows. You can't keep up with all of it anymore. And I feel like there's always a bunch out there like, I read that comic, but I don't have time to watch that show.
Well, yeah. How do people expect everybody to go out and? I mean, maybe that's not the expectation, right? Oh, the Umbrella Academy is another one that I really want to. I loved the first 2 seasons, and I still have yet to watch the 3rd season, and that just dropped. But there's just so much content, and it boggles my mind that anybody can do all of it. And, and we're sitting here saying like, hey, also listen to our podcast. Don't do it while you're watching the show. Do it while you're driving or something like that. But I guess that's, people love content, man. Just, you need a lot.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Dustin, speaking of content, we need more. What do you got?
All right. So, I could be wrong on multiple ways here. I could precede everything I say on a daily basis with I'm about to be wrong.
I know the feeling.
You guys know, but looking around, I've seen Berserker issue 1 for like $10, a little more in a couple spots, but like feels like it's quieted down around it a little bit. It's not quite as buzzy of a comic right now, even though it's still coming out. The Matt Kint and Keanu Reeves written, super bloody comic.
Yep.
But there's still the show in development right now too. And it feels like a Keanu Reeves show. And is it Netflix? Do you know?
I think it is Netflix because it's Boom Studios, and Boom works not exclusively with Netflix, but they've got a little bit of a partnership going on there.
Yeah. So as long as, if that still comes out as planned, then a lot of things can happen, and it sounds like they're still a ways away from it. Feels like a comic that it's a bit of a long play, but that could become really popular when that comes out, especially if it's still starring and created by Keanu Reeves.
So I think that was one of the big reasons why it, no pun intended, boomed right away when it first dropped, right? Like there were
subtle, Jake, subtle.
You know what? I'm in the middle of a flow and you just ruined it, Jesus. Thank you for that.
Sorry. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So what?
Full run here of being interrupted while you're trying to do it. Plus, you have to also, as you do that, use every major publisher as a pun.
Oh God, now I can't do that. Imagine what it would be like if I could do that though. That would be amazing, don't you think? You would have to marvel at my ability to DC that. The only one I couldn't do is DC.
You could put that one back in the vault.
What an image to behold.
All right, everybody. We're done with that segment.
That's some dynamite comedy we have right here. One more? I'm getting vertigo from all these puns, guys. I'm sorry.
No, they don't even exist anymore.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Counts.
They've been black labeled. Oh, that was the best one. I won. I win. I don't even remember what we were talking about. Oh, Berserk. Yeah. Okay. So the thing is I always felt that series was a play on, like, they came up, I think it was reverse engineered. They came up with the TV series. And then they're like, okay, how do we build? Because the thing is I genuinely think that there is something to be said for building your audience before it ever becomes a show. And I think they reverse engineered that. They said, we got the idea for a show. We've got this. And we think that it's going to. So let's back it up and let's turn it into a comic first, build an audience, and then make the show.
Yeah. And it totally, that all follows for me. And I feel like I would see people kind of making a rush on the foil variants and things when they were coming out at first. And like a lot of that died down because it seems like it's still quite a ways from ever hitting a TV.
But with Keanu Reeves attached, it does make me feel more confident that something will come out of it. It doesn't seem like he would start this just to finish at this. This is not the finish line for him to get this comic book off the ground. I think the finish line was always to get the TV show. And that
there's also some anime talk about making it into an anime.
That might be cool.
That would make a lot of sense with this story. I can see that being pretty cool.
Well, let's hope that we get to see something out of it, because I don't know about you guys. I liked it. I didn't love it, but I liked it, and I wouldn't mind seeing some form of live action or animated or anime version of this.
Yeah, I was kind of in the same boat. Like it's totally worth a read. I had fun with it. I didn't think it was a standout, like amazing or anything I'd never seen before, but the art's really cool. And the story works. I kind of got totally forgot in the middle of it that it was taking place in the present, because we were so many issues of flashback to like cavemen. I was like, I love this caveman comic. And then like, high tech room, and I was like, this is a caveman comic.
Exactly right. So let's put a pin in that to see how that turns out. But I think from a speculation standpoint, I think you make a good point. It's something we are confident we're going to see. And if the price is dropping, this might be a good time to get a couple while they're low. Well, I have no good segue for this, but I'm going to move on to my speculation for the week. And I'm going with, this is a book that we have brought up already, but based on some recent news, I'm going to say it again. Astonishing X-Men number 6. So this is the first full appearance of Abigail Brand. So this is one we have brought up. This one is kind of been moving around in the market for over the last year. People have been speculating for a little while. It looks like initially back in April of 2021, but something recently happened that brought this up all over again. And that is, it says that it's an exclusive story, so I'm not entirely sure, but so I'll give him credit. Giant Freaking Robot is exclusively saying that actor Mary Elizabeth Winstead has joined Marvel's Cinematic Universe. Now, that is, if you go into it, there's a lot of stuff written here that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the MCU per se, just that this actor is now being brought into the MCU, but under an unknown character. So we don't know what character they're going to play. However, there's speculation that they'll be playing Abigail Brand for the Commander of S.W.O.R.D. And this is something that people are speculating on for Secret Invasion. Now, if it's going to happen so the announcement is apparently confirmed based on this article, but the announcement is just that they're being brought in for Phase 4 for the MCU. Undisclosed character, but everybody is pointing at this being Abigail Brand. So that's why I'm bringing it back up. This book is moving a little bit, but it was previously on a pretty downward trend. It went from being a book, if you were looking at it in a higher grade, a 9.8 was going in the ballpark of $200. And if you're still getting graded, you're going to spend a little bit of money on this, but you can find raw copies for under $20 and good raw copies of this book still. That would be one that I would go out and look for. And I would not try to buy the graded copy. I would go looking for a really nice, clean copy of this just at your LCS. This is still one you can go out and hunt. There's no need to go on eBay for this one just yet. But Jesus, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it popped because Emilia Clarke had been cast, and people thought that she was gonna play Abigail Brand, and it turned out I think she's not. She's gonna play, I don't know, somebody in the what is a Queen Scroll or something of that nature. Mm-hmm. And again, that's still speculation. We're still not 100% on it. It's just a cool book to have as well. It's a cool cover, red cover with Colossus on it.
It is an iconic cover, in my opinion. I really do enjoy that cover.
So I mean, this is a time to buy it when it's low. I mean, a lot of the books are low right now. This is one of them. But if it hits, I mean, that's a way for you to, take some equity out and go for another book. Or if you're going to want this book and maybe you like the character in the MCU, you get it before it pops and you get it at a very reasonable price.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of good things to look into with regards to Secret Wars, and so I just wanted to highlight. I saw that article pop up for the Mary Elizabeth Winstead joining the MCU. I thought it was interesting. You can go find it. It literally is on Giant Freaking Robot right now. This was a headline from today, so this is probably 3 days before this article drops, so everybody else listening may have already read it, but might be worth going and checking out. All right, well, Dustin, this has been an absolute pleasure, as I really thoroughly enjoyed kind of breaking down not just your grails, but then going into your Kickstarter and kind of what drives your creativity. I'd like to one more time, let's point people towards the Kickstarter. If you're listening, you can go to the show notes and we are going to have a link to the Kickstarter page in there. But Dustin, how would you like to point people to there, or how do they get there?
So if you go to Kickstarter.com, if you type in Magda, Magda, you'll find it right away. Otherwise, I'm on Twitter at DLukeNelson, and I've got a link right there in my bio.
Perfect. I think that's perfect. You can find that if you want to go look him up on Twitter or on Kickstarter. And then, as I said, we will have a link in the show notes, and we'll make sure that we also tweet this link out as well. Dustin, thank you once again for joining us. This was a lot of fun. I know Jesus and I are both very intrigued and interested to see what happens with your Kickstarter, your campaign, and with everything that we think going for you. I think we'd like to have you on again in the future to talk about the success and what you've got going on after that.
Thanks so much for supporting and for having me on the show. I'll be back anytime. I love this. I will be the dumb sidekick anytime, who's just willing to keep going back to the well on John Goodman jokes or Righteous Thirst for Vengeance over and over.
or puns. I mean,
yeah.
I gotta say, I don't think the pun segment worked out. I don't know if we're gonna keep that.
Oh.
All right. Well, thanks again, everybody out there listening. If you'd like to, you can find us on the internets. You can go and find us on Twitter at SpecTalesPod. You can find us on Instagram, Spec_Tales_podcast. And if you'd like to tell us your Grail tale, you can always reach out to us on our email, spectalespodcast@gmail.com. That's all we got. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.